with the current humanitarian situation. This includes putting an end to the starvation and genocide and ensuring the delivery of humanitarian aid with the start of the implementation of recovery and reconstruction plans. This is to be followed by reaching the desired political settlement of the Palestinian cause through negotiations for a final solution between Palestinians and Israelis to implement the two-state solution, paving the way towards the full membership of the independent state of Palestine in the United Nations. The Arab League would like to begin by expressing its appreciation for the efforts of the US President Trump and his growing interest in reaching a peaceful settlement for the Palestinian cause. We also express appreciation for the intensive mediation by Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and the United States to reach a ceasefire. We really appreciate the role of the Arab Islamic Ministerial Committee entrusted with implementing the two-state solution, chaired by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and by the International Coalition for a Two-State Solution. We express our appreciation for all American, Arab, and international efforts to consolidate the ceasefire and ensure the unimpeded flow of humanitarian aid through all crossings at scale and through UNRWA. International efforts must be intensified to implement the Arab Islamic Plan for Recovery and Reconstruction adopted by the Emergency Arab Summit in Cairo. Egypt is working to hold an international conference to mobilize the necessary funding for the implementation of this plan. We stress the need for Israel to implement the important ICJ advisory opinion adopted on October 22nd, which confirmed Israel's humanitarian and development obligations as an occupying power towards the UN, specifically UNRWA, and the occupied Palestinian people, including its obligation to stop the genocide and the deliberate starvation of the Palestinian people. However, this cannot succeed without the United Nations' central role in implementing the New York Declaration, which created an internationally supported political horizon for addressing the Palestinian cause in all its dimensions, not just the Gaza Strip. By implementing the two-state solution and ensuring the admission of the independent state of Palestine as a full member at the United Nations. This is reinforced by the remarkable success of the Ministerial Conference and World Summit held at the United Nations on the implementation of the two-state solution and the settlement of the Palestinian question under the leadership of Saudi Arabia and France. This resulted in a significant increase in the number of countries recognizing the state of Palestine and the adoption by the General Assembly of this important declaration by an overwhelming majority as a roadmap towards achieving these goals. Its key steps include support from the United Nations and the international community for the reform measures pledged by the Palestinian Authority and the provision of the necessary financial resources for the Palestinian government to allow it, as the Supreme Central Palestinian Authority, to extend its full control over the Palestinian territories, including the entire Gaza Strip and the West Bank, away from any other schemes or external or Israeli influence. The International Stabilization Force will be established with the approval and active participation of the Palestinian Authority in preparation for the transfer of its powers to the Palestinian Authority once the situation stabilizes. For this to happen, the extreme right-wing Israeli government must stop daydreaming and must seize its pursuit of what it calls the dream of Greater Israel. The countries of the Middle East, especially Arab countries, will not allow Israel or any other state to dominate the Middle East region under any circumstance, no matter how superior their military capabilities are with external military support. It also requires that Israel realize that its condemned military aggression against the state of Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and recently the state of Qatar will not serve its interests in the short or long term, but will lead to a larger regional confrontation with dire consequences. It should also realize that its deliberate withholding of billions of clearing funds strengthens the control of extremist forces over the situation on the ground as an alternative to the legitimate Palestinian Authority, which needs all our support and endorsement. Israel should realize that its continued religious provocation of Muslims and Christians through the repeated storming by members of its extremist government of the holy religious sites, especially Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Church of the Covenant, and other Muslim and Christian holy sites, only entrenches hatred and anger and threatens any chance of coexistence in peace and harmony. It should realize that the continuation of its fierce settlement policies, which violate Resolution 2334 and others, will not diminish the Palestinian people's attachment to recovering their stolen land, and that its policies of starvation and terrorism and its obstruction of reconstruction will not allow it to control the Gaza Strip or the West Bank, nor will it force the Palestinian people who are so attached to their land and state to leave. The free and proud Palestinian people will continue to fight for their legitimate and inalienable rights, especially their rights to establish their free, independent state on the lines of 1967 with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital, with the full support of the Arab League, its member states, the United Nations, and the entire international community. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank Mr. Abdelaziz, His Excellency, for his statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Madam President. In the name of God, most compassionate, most merciful. At the outset, I would like to congratulate the Russian Federation on its presidency of the Council this month. And we also thank you for convening this meeting on the situation in the Middle East, including the Palestinian question. And thank you for the reminder of the obligations and principles of international law and the responsibility of the Security Council in the maintenance of international peace and security. I would also like to thank Mr. Ramiz Al-Akbarov, the Deputy Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, for his briefing. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Kingdom reiterates its firm position towards the Palestinian people and their just cause. My country has been working for years to find a just and lasting solution to the Palestinian question. As a result of the unprecedented suffering to which the Palestinian people have been subjected in the Gaza Strip, the Kingdom has intensified its efforts to restore normalcy in the Gaza Strip and to begin reconstruction and enable the people to live in dignity in their land. Within these efforts, my country, together with France, recently led efforts to convene the conference on the implementation of the two-state solution, which resulted in the New York Declaration, as well as the recognition of the Palestinian state by a number of states. And in order to strengthen the capacity of the Palestinian Authority, the Kingdom and a number of friendly countries announced the launch of the Emergency Coalition for Financial Sustainability of the Palestinian Authority, which is a response to the unprecedented financial crisis facing the Palestinian Authority. The fund aims to stabilize the financial condition of the Palestinian Authority and ensure its ability to govern, provide services, and maintain security. Madam President, Your Excellencies, the Kingdom appreciates the active role of the U.S. President Donald Trump and the mediation efforts by our brethren in the state of Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey to begin implementation of the first phase of the cessation of war on Gaza and to create a comprehensive and just path towards peace and to alleviate the suffering of the brotherly Palestinian people, as well as a full Israeli withdrawal a restoration of security and stability, and the start of practical steps to achieve a comprehensive and just peace based on the two-state solution. The Kingdom condemns the Israeli Knesset's recent preliminary approval of two bills that aim to impose Israeli sovereignty over the occupied West Bank and to legalize Israeli sovereignty over an illegal colonial settlement. The Kingdom reiterates its complete rejection of all settlement and expansionist violations adopted by the Israeli occupation authorities. In conclusion, the Kingdom calls on the esteemed Council to assume its responsibility for the implementation of the relevant resolutions in order to end the settlement activity, lift the blockade completely, protect the holy sites in Al-Quds al-Sharif, and prevent any unilateral action that aims to change the identity of the Palestinian territory, and finally, work towards the establishment of a Palestinian state in accordance with the relevant resolutions, as well as the practical steps included in the New York Declaration. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of Saudi Arabia for his statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Armenia.
Madam President, we thank the Presidency of the Russian Federation for convening the open debate on the situation in the Middle East, including the Palestinian question, and also express our gratitude to the briefers for their insightful statements. Historically, Armenia has always been genuinely interested in peace, stability, and security of the Middle East and the wider region, which, amongst others, hosts a sizable Armenian community who has always been a steadfast contributor to the progress and prosperity of the Middle East, enriching its cultural and civilizational palette. For years, the Republic of Armenia has been shouldering international efforts aimed at stabilization of situation in the Middle East. Also, as a troop contributing country to UNIFIL in Lebanon, withdrawal from where must be executed in a well-calculated and orderly manner, as we should be mindful of the legacy the UN will leave behind, as well as what opportunities can be considered for further United Nations engagement with Lebanon. Madam President, Armenia has continuously emphasized that only two independent neighboring states can guarantee lasting stability, security, peace, and prosperity for both the Palestinian and Israeli peoples, where all enjoy the benefits of peaceful coexistence. With this in mind, and as a long-standing supporter of the two-state solution, Armenia recognized the State of Palestine in June 2024, and subsequently, during the 79th session of the UN General Assembly, established diplomatic relations with Palestine. In this vein, Armenia also participated in the high-level international conference for the peaceful settlement of the question of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution, co-chaired by France and Saudi Arabia, and endorsed the New York Declaration. Armenia has provided humanitarian aid to Gaza, also supporting life-saving activities of UNRWA. The Armenian side has also reached an agreement with the Palestinian authorities that the Mashtots Matanadaran, the world's largest repository of ancient Armenian manuscripts, museum and research institute, will temporarily become a shelter for endangered Palestinian manuscripts. Madam President, we welcome the agreement on the ceasefire in Gaza to ensure unimpeded humanitarian access and immediate release of hostages. Most importantly, negotiations must remain the only viable means of achieving a lasting and dignified peace in the Middle East based on the two-state solution. With this vision, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, welcomed and participated in the Middle East Peace Summit in Sharm el-Sheikh upon the invitation of the U.S. President Donald Trump and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, supported by Qatar, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, and others. The Republic of Armenia stands ready to support all constructive efforts aimed at bringing just and lasting peace to the Middle East, the people of the region are craving for so long. I thank you. Благодарю, госпожа председатель.
I thank the representative of Armenia for his statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Mauritania.
شكرا.
Thank you, Madam President. Allow me at the outset to thank the Russian Federation for the diligent efforts in presiding over the Council this month. I also thank Mr. Alakbarov, Deputy Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, for his comprehensive briefing. Madam President, while my government strongly condemned the Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip, which has claimed nearly 70,000 lives, most of them women and children, destroyed entire cities, and expanded across the region, violating national sovereignty in Lebanon, Syria, and the state of Qatar. Yet my government hopes that the ceasefire in Gaza resulting from the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement reached on October 13th, that this agreement will lead to an end to the war against the Palestinian people and a definitive end of their humanitarian suffering. We also value the international and regional mediation efforts undertaken by the US, Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey. We hope that this will be an opportunity to resume the political process aimed at establishing an independent Palestinian state along the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. This new chapter that starts with the implementation of the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement calls upon the international community, the UN, and especially the Security Council to intensify efforts to ensure the stabilization of the ceasefire and allow the adequate delivery of humanitarian aid in parallel with the implementation of other agreed upon provisions. In this context, my country renews its full support for UNRWA as a vital mechanism to assist the Palestinian people in facing the hardships caused by the ongoing occupation for the past 80 years. Hardships that have tragically worsened since the aggression on Gaza began 2 years ago. This necessity was affirmed by the ICJ in its advisory opinion issued this week, which outlined Israel's obligations regarding the presence of the UN and its agencies in the occupied territories. Madam President, this phase is one of humanitarian aid, reconstruction, and permanent stabilization of the ceasefire, but it is also a decisive moment to capitalize on the growing momentum and continued recognition of the Palestinian state to adopt a two-state solution as the only political and legal solution capable of ensuring lasting peace in the Middle East. Undoubtedly, the recent two-state solution conference held in New York, initiated by Saudi Arabia and France, is a clear evidence of the support this option enjoys. The Security Council's action to translate this international consensus into tangible steps on the ground is an urgent necessity for the Council to fulfill its role in maintaining international peace and security. Madam President, achieving lasting and comprehensive peace in the Middle East requires the Council to compel Israel to fully withdraw from all occupied Arab territories and commit to non-aggression and non-violation of the sovereignty of any state. This is also an occasion for my country to reaffirm its support and solidarity with Syria, with Lebanon, and the state of Qatar in the face of the aggression and blatant violations of international law committed and continuously committed by Israel within the territories of these three countries. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of Mauritania for his statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting stands adjourned.